last Railtour train of the summer was due to arrive at Knapford. Emily, Gordon, and James were excited. "Does anyone happen to know who's pulling it?" asked Emily. "I heard it's another one of Spencer's brothers," said Gordon. "Another one?" exclaimed James. "You'd think these Railtour people would be tired of looking at the same engine." "Well, at least they chose to see this one," huffed Gordon. "Unlike us being stuck with you." James hissed with resentment. Just then, the Railtour train came gliding into the station. "Hello," said the engines. The visitor paused for a moment, as if he was thinking of something to say, and then he began to speak. "Hello there! My name is Dwight D Eisenhower," the engine bellowed with an exaggerated American accent. The engine stared. Dwight continued. "I'm excited to visit your railroad, he said. Bringing you lots of visitors here in these coaches, passenger cars. And," Dwight looked at the other engines, who were still bewildered by his antics. "Oh, crumbs," he muttered to himself. "Why are you talking like an American?" asked Gordon. "What is a railroad?" asked Emily. "And why are you referring to your coaches as cars?" asked James. "In case you've forgotten, cars go on the road." "I suppose I should explain," said Dwight normally. "My old name was Golden Shuttle, but I was renamed after one of the generals that helped win the war. After my rail tour is done, I'm being sent to live in a museum in America." "Is that why you were talking like that?" asked Gordon. "That's right," said Dwight in his American accent. "I gotta get used to speaking like them and using their terminology." "But you don't have to do all that," said Emily. "I'm afraid it can't be helped, little lady," Dwight continued. "It's the American way." Later that day, Thomas had stopped at the station to collect more passengers when Dwight came up. "Hello," said Thomas. "You're here for the rail tour, right?" "That's right," Dwight said. "I'm Dwight D Eisenhower." Thomas looked at the visitor, feeling confused about his voice. "I'm Thomas," he said. "Oh, so you're Thomas," Dwight continued. "The other rail tour engines told me about you. Yep, everyone loves Thomas the Train." "Now wait a minute," huffed Thomas. "I'm not a train, I'm only a tank engine. When I'm pulling my coaches, then I'm part of a train." Dwight became flustered. "And why are you talking like that?" asked Thomas. "That's odd behavior for a proper engine. Stop it." "I am a proper engine," exclaimed Dwight, talking normally now. "I'm just more, cultured, that's all. Not like you'd understand, you silly little engine." Dwight puffed off in a huff, leaving Thomas at a loss for words. That night, the engines talked about how odd Dwight's behavior was. "What does that engine think he's trying to prove?" asked James. "Being named after a general doesn't make your actions just," said Gordon. "And just because you're going to live in America doesn't mean you should impersonate them," put in Emily. "But he still does it for some reason," added Henry. "And he seems rather defensive when pressed about it," said Thomas. "Perhaps he's nervous," suggested Edward. "What do you mean?" asked Gordon. "Think about it," said Edward. "After his rail tour is over, he is being sent to a whole new country far across the sea. The way I see it, I think he's putting on the American accent as a way to prove he belongs in his new and unknown environment." "So you think he's trying to fit in with the others in the museum?" asked Thomas. "Exactly," said Edward. The engines now felt sorry for Dwight and wanted to make him feel better. The next day, Dwight was getting ready to be coupled up to the Railtour train. He was feeling very sorry for himself, thinking that he made the others think of him as a strange engine. Just then, he saw some of them coming his way. "Oh no," he thought. "They're going to laugh at me for being so strange yesterday." Dwight started to move forward. "Wait!" yelled the shunter. "You're still attached to the corridor!" Dwight tried to stop, but it was too late. The corridor that connected the first coach to his tender had been torn to pieces. Bits of wood and metal littered the track. Dwight D Eisenhower felt ashamed. "You've caused a considerable amount of damage with you and your coach," the Railtour manager scolded. "What do you have to say for yourself?" "I'm sorry, sir," murmured Dwight. "I was afraid that those engines were coming to tease me." "Dwight?" asked the Railtour manager. "Were you talking in that silly American accent of yours?" "Yes, sir." "Now, I've told you not to do that. You don't need to put on a silly accent to fit in when you go to America." Edward and Gordon moved towards the platform. "Is this true?" Edward asked. "Did you put on that accent because you wanted to fit in with the other American engines?" "It's true," Dwight admitted. "I'm very nervous about going to America. I thought they would say mean things to me because I wasn't like them, so I practiced this accent and tried to memorize the terms they use over there, so that they would accept me." "Nonsense," huffed Gordon. "You don't need to do all that. Those American engines will be delighted to get to know you, no matter what you look or sound like, no matter if you call it a railway or a railroad." Dwight felt a bit better after hearing this. "So they'd like me just as I am?" "Of course," said Edward. Soon the corridor was repaired, and Dwight was ready to leave the station. "Goodbye, everyone," Dwight said. "I'll show those Yanks how we do it, stiff upper lip and all that." "3 cheers for Dwight D Eisenhower," called Gordon, and Dwight was cheered to the echo as he pulled out of the station. "Do you really think he'll be all right?" asked Thomas. "Of course he will," said Gordon, "because he is an Englishman, for he himself has said it, and it's greatly to his credit that he is an Englishman. That he is an Englishman. For he might have been a Russian, a French or Turk or Prussian, or perhaps Italian, or perhaps Italian. But in spite of all temptations to belong to other nations, he remains an Englishman. He remains an Englishman. For in spite of all temptations to belong to other nations, he remains an Englishman. He remains an Englishman.